Brothers and sisters, welcome to this journey of awakening. Our sacred legacy lives within us, written in our blood, carried through our songs and whispered by our ancestors. This is the path of remembrance, the return to the covenant of our forefathers, the rising of a people once scattered but never forgotten. Together we walk in truth, in unity, and in the strength of the Creator. If these words stir your spirit, you are not here by chance, you are part of the great awakening. May the Creator and our ancestors guide us on this path. Now, before the colonial powers arrived, the Bantu peoples lived in profound harmony, deeply connected to the Creator, their ancestors, the land, and each other. This wasn't merely a culture, it was a sacred covenantal order guided by divine law. Ritual purity, ethical conduct, social justice, and spiritual obedience were the pillars of daily life. The Creator was not distant but walked among the people, present in ceremonies, harvests, births, and marriages. Life itself was an offering, every gesture held meaning, every relationship carried responsibility. There was no division between sacred and ordinary, because all existence was infused with spirit. Communities thrived under moral laws that forbade lying, stealing, murder, or dishonor toward elders and ancestors. Justice was not vengeance but restoration, a process that healed broken harmony and brought peace back to the land. This balance was the living reflection of Torah order, written not on scrolls but in the hearts of the people. At the center of this way of being was Ubuntu. I am because we are. It taught that no one exists in isolation, the well-being of one soul is tied to the community. Through shared labor, shared meals, and shared healing, the people lived as one body under the Creator's breath. Health among the Bantu was seen as far more than the absence of sickness, it was the wholeness of body, spirit, and community. Traditional healers, herbalists, and diviners worked not as sorcerers but as spiritual physicians. They used sacred plants, roots, and natural elements while seeking guidance from ancestral spirits. Illness was viewed as imbalance, a signal that the flow of harmony between creator, person, and community had been disturbed. Healing involved prayer, cleansing, and reconciliation. Rites of passage, from puberty to marriage and death, were schools of wisdom that passed ancestral knowledge through generations. Young men and women learned purity, respect, discipline, and the sacred meaning of fertility. Birth and death alike were honored as spiritual gateways. Elders served as living libraries, guiding the young in understanding moral law, family order, and cosmic balance. Every custom had purpose, from washing before prayer to offering food before planting, all designed to align human life with divine rhythm. Through these sacred observances, identity and inheritance were preserved, ensuring that every generation remembered who they were and where they came from. Nature itself was the first temple of the Bantu. The land, rivers, mountains, and forests were sacred, not possessions, but living beings filled with ancestral presence. The people saw themselves as guardians of creation, caretakers of the soil and seasons. Farming followed natural cycles of rain and rest, guided by celestial signs. Before planting, offerings of gratitude were made to the Almighty and the ancestors for life, water, and seed. When rains came, the people sang songs of thanksgiving. When harvest arrived, they danced in praise. These rituals were not superstition but thanksgiving woven into daily life. They reminded everyone that the earth was not to be exploited but respected. Sacred groves, springs, and mountains were protected by strong communal laws. Cutting a sacred tree or polluting a river was considered a spiritual crime. The balance between people and nature was harmony itself, the reflection of the Creator's order. Through the cycles of planting, rain, harvest, and rest, the Bantu walked in constant communion with creation, understanding that to harm the land was to wound the spirit of the community. Then colonization came, and with it, the deliberate breaking of that sacred balance. The invaders saw the Bantu people's wisdom, their reverence for the Creator, and the divine order, but sought to erase it. Indigenous languages, rituals, and governance rooted in ancestral law were outlawed. Missionaries replaced sacred rituals with foreign dogmas. Colonizers established trade systems built on greed, extracting gold, ivory, cotton, and human lives. The people's own wisdom was mocked, their customs called pagan, their gods replaced with foreign images. The spiritual fabric of society was torn apart. Yet beneath the surface, ancestral knowledge refused to die. Songs, proverbs, and oral stories kept the truth alive, that the Creator had never left his people. Even through forced labor, enslavement, and exile, many continued to practice sacred ways in secret. They hid prayers within dances and rituals within daily tasks. Their resistance was not through weapons alone, but through memory, through refusing to forget who they were and to whom they belonged. Today, the chains have changed form, yet they still bind. The lands of the Bantu continue to be plundered for raw materials, rubber, animal skins, cotton, minerals, and even blood plasma. These are taken cheaply, processed abroad, and turned into high-value goods, tires, luxury clothing, cosmetics, and medicine. The same goods are sold back to the people at unaffordable prices. And when they wear out, the West sends its second-hand clothes as charity. But this is no generosity, it is a continuation of economic slavery. It destroys local industries and makes self-sufficiency impossible. Myths like free trade and comparative advantage disguise exploitation, convincing Africans it is fair to produce raw materials while others profit from technology and capital. The game is rigged, profits flow out, dependency grows, and pride is eroded. Each imported item whispers a lie, that foreign goods are better, and that the people's own creations have no value. The true battle is not only for resources but for the restoration of self-worth and spiritual dignity. This system does more than steal wealth, it shapes minds. Receiving second-hand clothes creates an illusion of benevolence. The giver feels noble, the receiver feels thankful, yet the deeper truth remains unseen, the wealth of the land is already gone. This psychological warfare teaches people to see crumbs as blessings while their own inheritance is stripped away. It breeds dependency and dulls identity. Slowly, the sacred pride of the Bantu, the knowing that they are children of the covenant, fades beneath imported religions, foreign languages, and manufactured desires. The youth begin to idolize what comes from outside while despising what comes from home. This is how cultural amnesia is maintained. But awakening begins when the people recognize the pattern, when they open their eyes to the false generosity and see that their land, their spirit, and their knowledge are the true treasure of the world. Then, and only then, can restoration begin. The call now is to awaken and reclaim, to return to the laws of the ancestors, grounded in the Torah principles that once governed our lives: purity, justice, equality, truth, and communal responsibility. To live again in harmony with the rhythms of nature and the laws of the Creator. We must restore the sacred ceremonies that bind the living and the unseen, renew respect for elders, revive ancestral healing, and re-establish justice that restores rather than destroys. This awakening is not about rejecting the world, but about remembering who we truly are beneath the world's lies. It calls every Bantu person, in the continent and across the seas, to stand in covenant truth. The Almighty's ways were never forgotten, they live in the bones of the people, in the songs of the elders, in the pulse of the land. To awaken is to walk again in that light, unashamed, unbroken, and united. This generation carries the sacred duty to restore what was scattered. Elders must rise again as teachers, speaking boldly, warning the youth not to lose themselves in foreign service while neglecting their own. They must teach the old laws of purity, the respect of marriage as covenant, the customs of childbirth that honored the cosmic order, mothers kept close to their newborns, in huts warmed by the rhythm of nature. These ways were not primitive, they were holy, aligned with the Creator's cycles. Without this knowledge, generations drift without anchor. But with it, identity is restored. Breaking the curse of forgetting means testifying, telling the stories, sharing the songs, reviving the sacred memory. The future of the Bantu lies not in imitation of others, but in the remembrance of who they are, the covenant people, chosen to guard the balance of creation and light the way for the world. Thank you for walking this path of awakening with me today. The memory of our sacred legacy lives within each of us, waiting to be remembered, shared, and lived again, as we recommit to the covenant rooted in Torah principles. May wisdom guide our steps, may courage light our way, and may compassion bind our community together. If this message spoke to your spirit, share it with your family and friends who hunger for truth and connection. Join the conversation in the comments, listen to the stories of others, and offer your own witness to the prophecies we are called to fulfill. Subscribe so we can continue this journey together, awakening hearts, restoring memory, and walking boldly in the light of the Almighty's truth.